Welcome to Uncomfortable Conversations about Culture and Christianity. My name is Alex. You have already discovered that wasn't Eric doing the intro, so you're like, something weird is happening today. And you are right, something weird is happening. No Jess, no Eric, but we do have some special guests today, Josh and Josiah Dotzler, who are going to be talking a little bit about their lives, basketball, which, as you all know, the nude ball legend himself, me, I'm passionate about that. Another thing I want to let you know before we jump into the episode is one of the things that we have coming up or hoping to create is an uncomfortable community where people that maybe are fans of the show and like dialoguing about some of the topics that we're talking about and like wading into maybe topics that are controversial or difficult to talk about that we talk about often on the show. We have a fan that wants to put together a group that is able to read through some of the books and just work on some discipleship that could happen for people that want to have those conversations at the intersection of culture and Christianity and grow in discipleship. So if you want to be a part of that, let us know. Send us an email, podcast@cccomaha.org. That'll be something that's launching soon. You'll hear more and more about it. But without further ado, welcome, Josh, Josiah. Thanks for jumping on today's show. You guys are brothers, and I'm excited to hear a little bit about your career. But first, just introduce yourselves each, whatever you want to say about yourself, so our millions of listeners can make sure they know everything about you. So,
sure. I'll go first. I'm Josh, and Josiah's bigger, better looking brother. Bigger, older, 18-year age gap, and been a part of Christ Community Family in different ways. And excited to be on the podcast today. Played basketball at Creighton and played at Bellevue West. And basketball is a huge part of my story, my life, my journey to even faith and what I'm doing today. And so excited to talk about that a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm Josiah Dotzler, the younger and, as my dad would say, better looking version of him. And, I'm young and heading into college next year at Creighton and, going through this journey of life with God by my side and, just learning. So,
yeah. So are you the Dotzler family, for those that don't know? I mean, you guys are 18 years apart. There's a couple siblings between you all, right? So where are you guys all in the pecking order of the Dotzler family? Just for those that don't know, share a little bit about some of maybe that family history and the size of your family and how that all is.
Yeah. What number are you?
So I'm number 13.
Number 13. So there's 14 of us all together. I'm number 5, number 13. So there's a few between. I think there's 9 girls, 5 boys. And then now I think there's 20. How many grandkids are there?
21.
21, 22 grandkids.
Wow.
So
you have one younger sibling.
Yes.
Okay.
Second to last.
A boy or girl?
Girl.
Okay. Cool.
Sophomore in high school.
Okay, at Bellevue West. Great. So you guys have quite the lineage at Bellevue West.
Yeah.
And a lot of athletes, right? It's not just you two, right? So we don't want to leave the other ones out,
I mean, honestly, kind of started with our parents. Both of our parents played basketball in college, small town or small school, Tarkio, Missouri. And my parents met, from what I understand, my dad was playing basketball, got hurt, started helping out with the girls team. And as he was helping out with the girls team, saw my mom was playing, and they started to obviously get in a relationship. And as a result, all of us are here.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to just get into maybe both of your kind of careers at Bellevue West and then recruitment process. As you both mentioned, Josh, you played at Creighton, and you're going to head to Creighton here in a matter of weeks and start to make that next run at the national championship. And so we're excited for that as Jay fans. But I'd like to just talk about maybe the paradoxes, the differences, 18 years apart, and what your journeys have looked like. For those that don't know, I'd like to think that we were rivals in high school at Burke High School, where I played, in Bellevue West, but Burke was pretty bad. We went on a kind of a tailspin after my freshman year, and we were no longer competing at that point. I'd like to think you knew who I was, but you didn't. But I know who you were because you were getting recruited, and you were the guy that committed to Creighton, as a sophomore in high school. But just tell us about what that journey was, like hometown kid, and what that recruitment process even looked like. And it'll be fun to kind of compare, the difference 18 years later and how much has changed when we hear from Josiah.
I mean, honestly, first of all, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so racking my brain on what happened, but it was different back then. When I was coming up, number one, I didn't even know Creighton basketball existed. Went to Bellevue West High School, went there and was following high school basketball players, but didn't know much about Creighton. Creighton was kind of, I would say, not on the map as a school that you would go to play sports and basketball. And so my focus was really just on high school. Went there as a freshman. After a couple of games, started most of the games my freshman year. Going into my sophomore year was when Creighton started to look at me. And between I think it was my freshman and sophomore year, 3 schools were recruiting me: Nebraska, Creighton, and then Kansas. And Kansas was always my dream school. And Kansas was where I wanted to go. Used to watch Kansas win championships. And I remember going to an unofficial visit at Kansas, and they had guys like Kurt Heinrich, Nick Collison. It was the year they went to the Final Four. I remember being there, loving what I saw, but started to get drawn to Creighton. It was the years for Creighton that they had Kyle Korver.
Yeah.
Started to have some success. They were still playing at the Civic Auditorium. And so I remember getting a little bit of pressure to commit, even as a sophomore or right before my sophomore year of high school, and didn't really understand the recruiting process. Honestly, I wasn't thinking about, man, let me see how many offers I could get. Let me see how many places I could go. I never even got an official visit because I was too young. And so, but it was around my sophomore year, the beginning of my sophomore year, I felt like Creighton seemed like a good place, seemed like a good fit. It was close to my family. And so I'll never forget, it was kind of random. My high school coach calls me down to his office and says, hey, I know the Creighton coaches were calling, wondering what you're thinking. Would you want to, and so we're just talking casually. And I said, I think, I was talking to my dad the night before, and I think Creighton might be the school that I want to go to. And he says, well, why don't you call Coach Altman right now? And I said, oh, okay, I'll call him. And so I call Coach Altman and I tell him kind of what I'm thinking. And it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon that day, the Omaha World Herald calls me and says, hey, I heard you that you committed to Creighton. And that kind of unfolded the story of my commitment to Creighton. And so it was kind of this weird process over the next couple of years between my junior, senior year. Other schools would come calling me: Florida, Gonzaga, Michigan State. But I had already committed to Creighton, and that was kind of the direction that I was going.
Talk about what that word committed means, because I feel like a lot of maybe older folks that are listening are like, this up and coming generation that Josiah is a part of, they don't know what commitment means. They're you don't even have to commit to a school to play there for all 4 years. It's just like, let's see how this year goes. And so did you ever did you feel like, nope, I could never sign somewhere else, or even some of the rules were different back then?
Yeah, it was very different back then.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in general, when you committed to a school, you were planning to play there for, your entire career unless something went wrong. And so I don't think I ever thought about not going to Creighton. I do wish I would have understood the process more, maybe visited a few more schools. But, again, I would say back then, it was kind of cool to be an early commit.
Yeah.
That said, man, coaches were looking at you. Coaches were watching.
Cool.
See, at least one person thought I was cool. But I would say that's very different today. But back then, that was kind of a big deal. And so, yeah, when we verbally committed, that was our word that we were going to go there.
Yeah, and it probably put a little target on your back. Everybody was like, "Oh, I want to get this guy's best." At that point,
100%. See, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have committed.
Yeah.
It's like every game after that, somebody does one good play on you, like, see, I should have got my scholarship to Creighton, man.
I should have had it too. So you got robbed. You didn't get to do the hat, switch hats and do all the kind of circus that happens now, but you made it out okay.
I made it out all right.
That was your journey. Let's hear about what your journey looked like 18 years later.
Yeah, so my journey definitely looks a lot different than even most high school players today. My initial thought being recruited by schools was I actually didn't want to go to Creighton because of the pressure of being behind my brother, Josh. And my initial thought was I want to go try, somewhere else, try out a new city, see what it would be like. And that was my initial thought process going into it. And my dad kept talking to me. I mean, obviously my parents want me to stay home. And they kept saying, just find the school that is best for you. So that's my whole, mindset going into getting recruited. And then COVID hit my sophomore year of high school, and that really messed up kind of everything with recruiting. As you can see, like colleges, high major colleges are really looking at the transfer portal now, and it's really hard to get recruited as a high school player. And also COVID gave those current college players an extra year in college, so there was some 6-year seniors and things like that. And so it was really hard for me. My recruitment didn't go as quickly as I kind of wanted it to. Right away I got hit up by a bunch of mid-majors. They started calling me, and it was a great conversation, but I just felt like I could go to that next level. And my years were going on, and it was kind of hard to get seen. And then also my junior year, AAU, the summer is kind of where you really get recruited by colleges nowadays. And that summer, the team that I normally am a part of kind of had something going on with them, and I had to switch teams. And after that took place, I had to go down to Kansas City. I joined a team in Kansas City where didn't know none of the guys, just met the coach. They had their system down there, and I was one of the only new players. And that was really difficult because their style of play was very different than my style of play. I didn't have much trust with the coach, and so it was really hard to get playing time. And throughout this whole summer, this last year, before my senior year, I didn't really get exposed a lot to many coaches because I wasn't stepping on the floor. And so that was really difficult. Creighton had been recruiting me throughout the process, but just they were very distant. They weren't necessarily really going hard after me. I had a lot of schools talking to me, but a lot of the big schools that were talking to me really weren't throwing out offers. They were just, we're here. We want you, but we're not sure if we want to throw out an offer yet. So it was really difficult for me. It was a difficult time getting recruited. But then that summer that I had been playing with this team in Missouri, and it wasn't really looking good. I had kind of accepted the fact that I was probably going to go mid-major, and I was fine with that. I was going to keep working hard, keep doing, what I could do. But that middle of the summer in June, our coach Woodard at Bellevue West had gotten our team in this Creighton camp where they had basically called up a bunch of high schoolers from around the Midwest, high school teams of players that they wanted to recruit and put them in a tournament. And I went in there and I was like, I'm not going to put too much stress on myself. Creighton, I think they had kind of, decided to go away from me, and I was okay with that. I felt like I didn't get to show myself, but, I was fine with it. So I went into this camp with the mindset that, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to help my team win some games. We're going to go in there and compete. And I ended up, just with that loose mindset, I think it allowed me to take all the pressure off myself and allowed me to play my game. And I had a really good showing, and that's when Creighton really hopped on the recruiting me again. And they were like, yeah, I think this kid should play with us. And so basically the rest of the summer after that, they were really hard talking to me every day. And I felt really loved by them. And that's when, after the summer ended, I went on an official visit to Creighton, and I had really decided that this feels like home to me, and I don't want this opportunity to be passed up. And so actually on the visit, I looked to my dad and I was like, I don't see myself going anywhere else. And he said, then just commit now. So I looked over to Coach Mack and I told him I wanted to commit there. And, that was one of the best days for me. Just, cool. Being able to get all of the pressure of wanting to go to a college and be recruited by all these big time schools, just the pressure had lifted off me. And it was a really good day for us. So.
Yeah, especially, because you were able to play your senior year then, committed, and not have to, worry about being up all night. I'm sure there were still people trying to bug you and trying to steal you away. But so it sounds like even, I was joking a little bit about, this generation not wanting to commit, but it's also on the other side of schools. Right. Schools, especially like you said with COVID, there's 40-year-old dudes playing, getting 12 years in college. Mm-hmm. And they were not just shelling out offers and AAU ball, which I want to go back to that and figure out all the drama that was happening there so you can admit it on the podcast. No, I'm kidding. Totally. I'm there's a story there. I don't actually want to ask. So I'm curious, how NIL, for those that don't know, it's gone to legislation, name, image, and likeness. And for a long time, this, are athletes a commodity? Are they their own brand? It's been something that's been around for a long time. ended NCAA football and like a lot of things because, people were like, I should be able to make money on myself. Schools are making millions of dollars and all that. And so it's been a journey over the last few years. But a couple of years ago, even Congress like opened up for, athletes to be able to sign with agents in college and start to make, money off their name, image, and likeness. And so I'm just curious, like from both of you, like what, like Josh is someone that's like, I didn't get to take advantage of those perks.
Come on.
How does that feel for you? Not that you can go change the past.
Right.
And then I'd like to just hear maybe some of the pros and cons that both of you guys see from just heading this direction and how it helps athletes, how it hurts them, maybe some of the contention that might happen in there. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. I mean, number one, I definitely wish there was NIL when I was playing.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to get resources, I probably have a mixed review in terms of how much I think athletes should get compensated. In a lot of ways, when I played, we got scholarships to go to school. You're going to get a good education. You get a little bit of compensation for, food, some housing and stuff, but not a ton. And I think it was back when I was playing that some of the lawsuits started to come out. And I know some guys, even from when I was playing, they received a little bit of money from some of the video games that were out there. But I don't know. I have mixed reviews. I think it's an incredible opportunity for players that are playing today. Like, I don't look at it as, man, I'm mad or upset that, Josiah is driving a nicer car than I'm driving right now or has the opportunity to make more money than I do. But I do think, with more opportunities, there's more responsibility too. And so I think, it's important for individuals to be surrounded with a community of people, with people who can help them as they're on this journey. I will say this, just sports in general, I think gets a little out of control. And the amount of money, even when I was playing at Creighton, you just see, people love their sports and are willing to give a lot and sacrifice a lot. And as a person of faith, I would come into the faith environment, a church, and those same people that are like going really hard for the sports team and giving crazy money, they're sitting on the sidelines at church. And so I always kind of wrestled with that a little bit as a person of faith. And I just think sports in general, we can go a little crazy. And so to see what people are willing to do to get certain players to come to their school or to stay at their school, the money that's being put out there, it's a little excess. But I think as a coach, I talked to the athletic directors at Creighton and coaches, and they feel like you have to do it if you're going to compete at the highest level. So I think part of it is just playing into the system that's there right now. But I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, Josiah has an opportunity to be in a position that a lot of college kids can't when they're, getting done with college. But there's a lot of responsibility with that too.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? Like, as you've looked at the journey, and obviously you haven't even started, your college career yet. So, hopefully more and more is there to come. But as you've understood it and just kind of navigated, like, dude, I haven't even graduated high school, and now there's maybe opportunity for influence or money or whatever that is more than a lot of people make in their careers or day jobs. Like, how you processing that?
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to it. I have been looking at all of the like pros for me, how can I leverage it and how can I use it to impact the kingdom of God especially. And I think for me, as a person of faith, like being able to start building a platform and, using NIL to, help people hear about the word or just impact people's lives, I think it's a great opportunity, especially in the next few years, I'll definitely have opportunity to do things that I've never dreamed of doing because of NIL. I feel like this is a new thing for everyone, and I'm learning, and a lot of people are learning. But in my opinion, I think that NIL can provide so many different things for so many different people. In my case, ever since I was little, I've wanted to be able to give back to people who don't have things I have experienced. And so like when I was in 6th grade, I had seen some of our neighbor kids playing basketball outside in our front yard, and they had holes in their shoes and holes in their shirts and shorts. And it really broke my heart that these kids aren't, getting the same amount of treatment that I'm able to get because of my family and, just the money that we had, and they didn't. And one thing that I'm working on with the people that I know, as I'm building my platform, I want to be able to give back just as much as I can receive. And so back in 6th grade, I had asked, some of my teammates' parents and, some people that my dad knew in work, if they would sponsor me. Basically, I told them, how many points that I score in this game, would you donate, X amount of money? And I was able to raise like raised enough money to buy 4 pairs of shoes for these next door neighbors which I gave to them for Christmas. And I think that's really stuck with me. All my years as I've been playing is ever since I heard this NIL thing. I think I heard it like my sophomore year. I just felt I could really use this to impact a lot of people. And that's the biggest pro that I see from it. I know many people are, they're going to think, how much can I get? How much can I get? And I just want to be a type of person who, I think God's blessed me with gifts and talents. And I think that I can use what God's given me to impact others. And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this, Alex. Josiah was the Gatorade Player of the Year here in Nebraska. And with that came a scholarship money that he could donate to an organization. And so he was able to donate that money towards a nonprofit organization, actually apply for even more money to potentially donate towards Abide. He picked a really good organization to donate to.
Yeah.
But then also, just recently, our nonprofit Abide received 2 checks from 2 Creighton players through NIL deals. And they were not crazy amounts of money, but a couple $1,000s each.
Yeah.
Which again, the average college student, the average person, would be stretched to give that type of money. And because they were a part of something, they were able to donate that money to a good cause. And so I do think there is incredible opportunity when you have that mindset and you really see your platform as an opportunity to impact other people's lives.
Yeah. I'm curious because I think with NIL comes like you are a brand, now more than ever. So I'm curious, like from both of you, what those pressures are like to be thinking, okay, like I remember just, old adages like you play for the, the name on the front of your shirt, not the name on the back of your shirt, like all those things that coaches would try to do to get you to represent like the school and play together. And we're all on equal, playing ground. Everyone's as important, the guy that, is helping the team and he never is going to see the court is just as important as anybody else. And, for a long time when you're all getting scholarships and you're all kind of on the same level, it's easy to say that. But when, you have teammates that you're like, well, coach, I hear you, but I know that this player is getting more than I am, or I know that somebody guaranteed this guy more than that. And,
Right.
And so it seems easier to play now for, if that's the case, if a donor was like, hey, we're going to give every player $1,000 for every point they score. Well, every one of them is going to want to be the highest scorer on the team and no longer, work for team, but work for self. So how do you start to balance those realities that are going to be there of, building yourself as a brand, but also being a part of something that's greater than yourself in a team, even outside of the religious aspect, but as a team player in team sports?
It's good.
One thing that I feel like some coaches have told me that I think is very true is the statement that if you help the team, you're going to elevate yourself too. Right. And so like Creighton, where they made it this last year to the Elite Eight, everyone on the team got recognition for that. Everyone on the team elevated because of that. And so I think you still have the principles that, the team success helps your success. But then with NIL, because you are the brand, not only is what you do on the court and with the team going to determine, your money or maybe like what goes on outside of the game, but what you do in interviews, what you do outside of playing basketball is now always being watched. And so I think that's one big thing with NIL is now no matter what you're doing, not just on the court, they're monitoring, how you act, what you do, and it can, help your brand. It can hurt your brand. It depends on just,
I couldn't agree more. I think when you win, everybody gets elevated. And I look at even just our careers, we've gotten awards, not even always, I'll speak for myself, not always because I was the best, but I was a part of winning teams. And I think when you're a part of a winning team, you get recognized, you get more opportunities. And so I think for coaches, you sell winning, you sell being a part of something that's great. that's going to be, create exposure. The thing that I connect brands to, I think someone's brand is actually a reflection of their purpose if it's built right. And I think in the short term, people want to do things to grow their brand, to gain money. And that's where I think it's very self-focused. Man, how many likes can I get? What type of reel can I put out there? Which all those things can help. But when you understand your bigger purpose, like I would say Josiah's talking about, it's like, man, I want to leverage my platform to make a difference. You're going to think about your brand in a more holistic way. You're going to be more focused on what you can give, how you can contribute. Obviously, you're going to look for opportunities. But also, I know this, statistics show businesses want to do deals with people who are about making a difference and people who are about the right things. And so, again, I think there's a short-term perspective, there's a long-term perspective. But I love how even helping people understand their brand is really helping them understand who God's called them to be and helping them live out the purpose and calling that God has in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. You have anything else to add that?
Oh yeah. Just when he was saying that, like understanding your brand, when NIL got introduced to me, we met a few times and, just kind of created this layout of, what we want our brand to look like. And I think if players take that perspective and that, like disposition on how to approach NIL, I think they'll figure out, like their purpose and what they want to accomplish with this impact they're given.
Yeah. I know you posted a picture the other day of, your name on top of the Gatorade player of the year and then Josiah's. It's crazy that even it lined up like that because there's been several between. So going back to you both played at the same high school and crazy enough had the same coach. I think, did he just Coach Woodard just retired, and so
he's like, I'm going out on top.
Yeah. How has even coaching, like, I don't know if you guys have talked to him or if he's ever mentioned it, changed from like 18 years ago to now, even the dynamics of players and all of this kind of stuff. Have you guys, has he alluded to, or have you seen, his coaching style as you're like, okay, I remember how he coached me and I watch sometimes how he coaches my brother and it's different. I'm just curious, like even the coaching side of things.
I mean, I would say this, if we were to ask him that question, I bet he would say he's changed a lot. And I think he has in some ways. I've heard coaches talk about just how players are different. I will say this with Coach Woodard. When I watch him coach, there's a lot of the same that he's been doing for a long time. Yeah. And I think he tries to change, but he's passionate about what he does. He's passionate about the game of basketball. He's really passionate about helping players develop as players, their skills. And then if you watch him, man, he's passionate about winning. And I think that's something that he's had consistently that he really hasn't lost, which I think all of us, when you have that passion, that can it can come out sometimes in positive ways, sometimes in not the most positive ways. But in the end, I mean, I know that he always wants what's best for the players. And I wasn't able to make it the other night, but there was a gathering for his retirement and tons of players, past, present, were there. And it's just a picture of the impact that he's had, on a lot of people. But I would watch him coach Josiah, and I know, sometimes I'd have to tell Josiah, because I remember even as a senior, and I mean, we won a championship and we're getting ready to, we got a great team and playing really well. And he's sitting there, Josh, I'm going to the free throw line. He's like, concentrate. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to do? Like, not concentrate? I'm a senior going to the free throw line. And so I think sometimes like there's that response just because he wants it so bad. And I'll tell Josiah, like, man, just you just got to keep focused on what you're focused on. And sometimes you can't listen to what the coaches are saying. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And even because, growing up, he coached my brother and my dad actually helped coach with him when he was with Josh, and then he also did with me. He'd be at the practices and going into high school, like the years 8th grade and 7th grade going into high school, Dad would always tell me, he's like, yeah, you think I'm hard. You haven't met Woodard yet. And I'm just like, I think that really prepared me for Woodard, because I think a lot of people can take his comments very personal. And, like Josh said, he just wants to win. And I think with me knowing what I knew before I went into high school, I knew he wanted the best for us. I knew that he wants to win. And so, those comments, those things that sound personal, you just can't take it personal. And you got to know, like, he's just wanting to win. He wants the best for you. And I think he definitely pushed his players and got the best out of his players. So,
and I'll say this, you don't always feel that in the moment, like when you're in high school going through it. I mean, you're feeling on hindsight, looking back, it's like, oh, he wanted the best for me. But I know when you're in the middle of it, sometimes it can feel pretty personal and it can feel pretty intense.
Yeah, and your emotional intelligence isn't quite at the same level yet. So, as you talk about, like, just maybe let us into maybe a conversation you would have with your brother who's going from the top, like you're the man, you're one of the best guys on your team. You just won a state championship. And now you're going to transition to another level where it's like you're not going to have all the accolades. You're starting at the bottom, of your team and the culture and all that kind of stuff. What kind of advice do you give somebody that's already made that transition from like, all right, I know I step into a gym, I'm at least one of the top 3 players, walking into that gym. And that means from both teams or even at a tournament, I'm one of the top 3 guys. But now I'm walking into like everybody on my team was that guy, in their high school. What kind of advice do you give, Josiah or, somebody else walking into that kind of situation?
Yeah. I mean, I think about Josiah's freshman year of high school. It's almost like you're starting over. I mean, when Josiah went to Bellevue West, they had a pretty good team. They had a kid in Chucky Hepburn who plays at Wisconsin now, another kid who plays at UNO. And so Josiah came in, and as a freshman, you have to earn trust. You've got to gain, confidence. You're figuring out your own game, but you're also connecting with your new teammates. And so I think that freshman season for Josiah was a grind, and he just kept working. He finishes the year making some pivotal plays to win a state championship. And as I look at him going into this year, I think of the same thing. It's not, you're not walking in, you're not the man, you've got to gain trust. You've got to come in with humility. You've got to come in as a team guy for the right reasons. Obviously, you got to keep playing with confidence, playing your game. But there's a process to gaining the coaches' trust, to gaining players' trust. And so I think just being okay with that process, recognizing where you come in, and again, recognizing that it is a process. And I look to his freshman year of high school just as a great roadmap for what he kind of embarks on again as he's a freshman coming into Creighton and playing with, some great players that have had a lot of success and coaching staff. And I think with that mentality, he's going to be able to, again, find his spot on the team. The other cool thing is Josiah is working out with some of those guys now. And so he's already starting that process of, competing against some of the highest level and figuring out where he's at and what he needs to work on, and also gaining that mentality that's going to help him as he goes to that next level.
Yeah, that's good. I'm curious. I mean, I'm hoping that anybody listening, even if they're not a basketball nerd, like they're getting, principles out of this that are helping them in life. But I'm curious, just out, you'll probably never be on the same team again, right? Like every year you're going to be on maybe even a full new starting 5 and all that kind of stuff. And that just happens in life. We move, transition is always happening. So how do we lead in the middle of transition? How do we become people that are humble and able to get to know other people and build meaningful relationships pretty quickly? Because that's how you're going to build trust. But then how do we also lead in those areas where camaraderie and you've got to kind of flip that switch pretty quickly to get, move the same direction pretty quickly. Any thoughts either of you have on how does somebody do that? That's just life is always transitioning, just advice on how do we step into those roles no matter where it is, how fast it's transitioning, to be good leaders, to be people that are trusted, good teammates just in life.
Yep, that's good. I mean, I would just say, even again, seeing Josiah's high school journey from freshman year to senior year, played with some great players, but towards the last couple of years, and the last year specifically, I mean, they went 29-0, 29-0, incredible year. What was fun was to see the culture they had created within their team, and I would say Josiah was a huge part of that. And some of it was what he experienced as a freshman coming in, and you get that freshman treatment. I remember coming into Creighton, getting the freshman treatment. Man, I got to carry bags on road trips. I got to sit in the back of the bus. I got to sit in the back of the plane. And I remember thinking, and I think Josiah had a similar experience in high school, I don't want to be that type of leader. I want to create a different type of culture, a different type of environment where everybody feels welcomed and where people feel encouraged. And so I got to watch Josiah this last year. I mean, as a senior best player, he's also bringing the most energy on the team. He's also encouraging the most guys on the team. He's giving high fives. He's bringing energy, positive energy every single day. He's creating an environment where, you know, whether you're giving out water or whether you're playing a lot of minutes, man, you feel like you're a part of the team. And so I just think as leaders, we have an opportunity to create a culture where people can feel welcomed and valued and loved, and we set the tone and the temperature. And I would say, you know, I got to watch Josiah do that this last year on his team, and it's something that we value not just on the court, but just in life in general, because as leaders, we have the ability to do that. I don't know, what would you say about this last year, Josiah, and what you did intentionally or what you saw that worked?
No, yeah, like Josh, he pretty much saw it all right. My freshman year going in, I did think, you know, I know that these guys are really good, but the type of culture we had there was real tough. In practices, not a lot of energy. I felt like as a freshman, playing with the varsity, I was trying to bring the most energy. And because I was a freshman and I didn't have no respect with the players and they're all seniors and older than me, nothing changed. It was just, you know, a little freshman trying to, you know, make some noise. Sophomore year, I was able to get into the starting role, but we still had those leaders in place that were better and they were bigger and older, had the respect. And still, we had tougher practices. I felt like coach got irritated more. There was no energy in practice. And so I kept, you know, my dad after every practice, you know, he's like, you got to bring the energy. You got to bring the energy. And I'm trying, but
it's hard when you're by yourself. Yeah.
But yeah. It just felt like I was by myself. Sophomore year, junior year, I became the leader of the team. And I think it took a step in the right direction, but it was still really hard because we had some seniors who still hadn't fully bought into it. You know, they were used to the old way it was done, and it was really hard to change the culture. And I felt that junior year we had a great year, but it was hard to have everyone buy into this culture of playing with energy, playing with joy. And then my senior year I knew I was the leader. I knew I had Coach Woodard on my side, and I remember going to him that summer and I talked to him about, you know, our motto for the next year. And Coach Woodard always has a motto for every single year. And he told me our motto was going to be play like lightning. And I thought that's a great motto. And, you know, he's like, yeah, we want our players to, you know, be everywhere on the court. We want our defense to be like lightning where the offense just can't think and we're everywhere. And I said, that's great. Could we also implement the theme of playing with joy? And at that time when I had also, you know, recommended that, Josh had sent him a book about who Scott Drew wrote it.
Yeah.
As called
The Road to Joy.
The Road to Joy, yeah.
Baylor basketball team.
Yeah, and so I had mentioned that to Coach Woodard, and, you know, he really liked it, and I kind of tried to explain, you know, what that would look like, you know, just maybe once in a while in practice having more fun drills instead of always the hard, you know, running lines and the hard practices that we're used to. And he kind of started implementing it and started buying into it. And you could just see in our team the fun that our players were having. You know, everyone's talking and it's even actually more competitive than the years before, but it was more fun at the same time. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned from this last year was culture really matters. Yep. You know, like as far as how a team performs, everyone having so much fun like we did this last year, we were able to play loose, play free, and play together because not only were we having fun on the court, but it created great camaraderie off the court too. And so just, you know, thinking of that leadership role, my goal to come in, you know, as an older freshman again, that I know I'm going to be starting at the bottom, but my goal is to, you know, still try and bring that energy and that joy that I learned as a senior in high school to my team as a freshman in college, even if that means I'm not playing any minutes, even if it means that I haven't earned any trust. I just want to be able to create a culture as quick as I can, and I don't know exactly what it'll look like. I know it will be difficult, but I think that creating a culture of joy and of energy just helps lift everyone up around you, and it helps you even play better.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's so good. And yeah, I appreciate your leadership. One of my hopes too is as people take away, and I'm even like, this dude's just graduating high school. You know, I think a lot of times people, maybe as we get older, we think that everyone else under us is getting dumber, and we're like, how is the world going to function with all these kids on TikTok and YouTubes and all these things, and we worry, and it's just refreshing, you know, to hear, you know, that you know your purpose and you know how you're able to articulate this and all that kind of stuff. So it's just refreshing to hear. If you're looking for an agent, I think we could market to Disney because playing with lightning just reminded me of Lightning McQueen. Playing with joy, you could go inside out there, you know. So maybe Disney will pick you up. And
I hadn't heard the lightning one.
Make both those shirts.
Funny.
So. Well, thank you again, both of you, for being here. It's been, you know, fun as kind of a basketball nerd to hear some of your journeys and how that all goes, and live vicariously through getting recruited somewhere other than Grace where they don't recruit you. And yeah, it's been fun. So for those of you who listen, thank you again for listening. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave a voicemail anytime by calling 402-885-9930. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on social media, TikTok. Maybe you could get sponsored by TikTok as well. TikTok at CCCOMA podcast, as well as on Instagram. There you can send us an email anytime, podcast@cccomaha.org. Until next time, we'll talk to you then.